the way I phrased it is, this is a 9-figure business that is currently a 7-figure business, but it's 9-figure quality. Um, and so I think that what you just described would get us to, um, on the path to a
Yeah.
the 9-figure business that I believe we're capable of.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven-figure journey. My name is David Gilliland, one of your hosts. We're delighted to have Connor Pera with us from the Print Authority. Connor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it.
Uh, this is fun. This is a lot of times we're talking to owner founders who have kind of grown their business, they've gotten to this level. Connor, you bought this business. It was already a 7-figure business, and you now have your sights on doubling it here in the next short term. Um, I I'd love to just sort of dive in a little bit and say what are some of the things you've learned that have really helped you as you've had to take over and lead a brand new team, a new business, something you weren't as familiar with? How did all this go down for you? And what are things that are helping this move forward effectively?
Yeah. So I found out about the buy then build acquisition entrepreneurship path when I was in business school, and it seemed to me like a really compelling path to entrepreneurship. I mean, I never really felt like I had a great idea or like super specific um, area of passion to go build something from scratch. Although I'm actually working on that as well now. So, but initially, it seemed like it really solved. It solved for um, this, desire to own and operate my own business as an entrepreneur, without necessarily having to do what I would say is like the hardest. I'm sure you know this better than most. The hardest part of the entrepreneurial journey, which is getting from you know idea slash like one or two customers to 7 figures and beyond. So I mean that's really like the I would say like most difficult part, and so you can kind of skip a lot of steps if you're willing to take on some risk in terms of bank debt, and yeah, kind of be willing to jump into something that is new. So that's what I did. I was working in a corporate job prior to buying this business, but I knew that at some point during my career, had made the decision that hey, I know this acquisition entrepreneurship path is out there. I'd like to do that next, and kind of started making some plans to make that happen. So I found this business through a business broker. The previous owner was looking to. He had started the business, built it, ran it for 30 plus years, and so he was looking to retire and get out of the business. So um, initially, I was not excited about the prospect of running a printing business, but this business in particular has a lot of, I think, really compelling things about it that make it that made it a really exciting opportunity for me. And so, yeah, so since I started a little over 18 months ago, bought the business. It's been, I feel like I've experienced a lot of the entrepreneurial woes that so many people do. Those, intense moments of anxiety, those like deeply existential, like, what am I doing? Am I going to make it? Sort of like questions, and those things still come up from time to time. But I do think like the more I experience them and get through them, the more resilient I feel like I become. And it's just a path that's totally like, being an entrepreneur, and having like so much skin in the game. It's just like a lot of the experiences are just unavailable in any other sort of career path. So, and for me, like I feel more professionally alive than I ever have in my life. And so I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but you take the good with the bad in terms of the stress and sleepless nights and all that kind of stuff too. But obviously for me, it's extremely rewarding to be building something meaningful and to have that ownership and responsibility and to be able to get to lead a business. So anyway, it's been awesome so far.
Well, welcome to the ride. And
Yeah,
that's,
thank you.
that's what it is. And it's a roller coaster. Sometimes it's one of Elon Musk's kind of rockets that goes up and blows up, and other times it makes a little
Totally.
progress. And then when it finally lands, that's fun. Um, so, what are some things you've learned through this? That you'd say, you know what, this was a lesson I didn't know this, but this really was helpful. This taught me something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so there's probably like two that stick out in particular. One is just the concept of no free lunch. I think that is something that intellectually I always understood. But when you work for a large corporation or work for anyone, or work for someone else in any context, you realize like all these ways. It took for me. It took becoming an entrepreneur to realize like all the ways that my risks were being mitigated by having an employer. And so, you just start to run across like so many of these sort of dynamics of realizing that everything has a cost. A lot of times it's really obvious, right? It's like a financial cost. But even if it's like a cost that's associated with time and energy and emotional stress, like you start to see those things a little bit more, and you just kind of realize that no matter what path you choose, and I think about it in terms of the way we think about growth and the strategy for our business, like everything's hard. It's just kind of like choosing the hard path that's the right path for you and your business is the challenge, but there's no like snap your fingers and like stumble into millions of dollars in revenue. I mean, I'm sure those examples are out there, but that is certainly not something you can ever expect. And so, because of that, too, I think like my level of respect and admiration for entrepreneurs, particularly ones that have, stayed in it for so long, has, 10x at least, just because that everything was so hard fought, because as an entrepreneur, you're like in that fight. And so anyway, so the other big thing that I've learned, again, intellectually, I understood this having a business school background and everything, but until you're in it, it's like impossible to appreciate, which is that revenue's not income and income's not cash. And
That's
I
right.
can't pay my bills with income or revenue. I need cash to do that. So, just like that, managing working capital, and as I mentioned, I took on a lot of debt to buy the business, so it's a highly levered, growing business, which I think has its own set of challenges and stressors, and so yeah, so for me, that figuring out how to manage cash, which is an ongoing process, but I have a cash flow forecast that's 13-week rolling, that I manage from now and have been doing for several months. But it's still stressful. But that certainly
Yeah,
helped tremendously. And yeah, but recognizing that, it's like, oh, we had a great month, like we did X amount in revenue, and then kind of realizing, especially if you're reinvesting that back into growth, like, okay, but like, when's the money going to be in the account? Because I got bills to pay, and
that's right.
I got
Yeah,
payroll next week, and so like, that dynamic is also one. Again, you intellectually, like, I understood it, but until you're in a situation where you've got payroll coming up, or your rent's due, and you're waiting on a check or an ACH from a customer, like, it's a different level. So it's yeah, I think that's one that has consistently just punched me in the mouth, and but I've had to just continue to relearn. So anyway,
yeah, you can put it up on the wall. I still don't know who ever said this. I ought to look it up someday. One of our listeners will probably tell me. But revenue is vanity, profits are
yeah,
sanity,
I've heard this. Yeah,
but cash is king, right? And
yeah,
so it gets down to this, and it really plays out just like that, doesn't it? It's
hmm,
like, oh, I feel good. Look at my revenues, but profit's the only way to know if you're not just a nuthead chasing a dream that's never going to pay off. And,
right.
and but cash is what keeps us alive. Cash rules the day still, right? And
Yeah, totally.
so
Yeah,
live that way, run your business that way. You got something.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
anyway, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I agree. This is a lesson we all have to learn, and many, especially in the 1 to 3 million phase, are still relearning this cash question, and or on their new opportunities because they think, oh, I've got a business, I know what I'm doing. Um, they're still relearning how important the profits are, not on the overall business, but on the new projects and the new clients. Because sometimes the new clients and the new everything you're pushing for, you're excited about, but really was unprofitable and starts to drain your cash. Right? Great looking
Yeah,
revenue, terrible cash.
exactly.
so,
Exactly. Yeah.
so,
Or even if it's profitable, again, this sort of goes to the
yep.
first lesson of, like, that I feel like I've learned of no free lunch. Like, even if it's profitable on a dollars and cents standpoint, if you're all of a sudden, like, a new customer that represents, maybe 10% of your sales is creating 85% of your headaches, like, and you're spending all your time, like, putting out fires related to that customer, even if you're making I mean, it's got to
The
be like
money,
a
the
really
money.
profitable customer to be worth, almost all your energy, right? So you got to,
Yep.
all those things have to be aligned in terms of, being able to make it work, and
Absolutely.
profitable.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And so thank you for sharing some of those. You're at a phase now where you're looking at your business. You're saying, okay, I got some things working. I purchased this thing. We've got it kind of wrangled. I could see where we're headed, and you really want to push for some growth. And in this industry, tends to be a slower growth place. But you want to do some pretty sizable growth in a short period of time. What what are some of the challenges that you're foreseeing or experiencing now that could keep you from experiencing that 2x growth that you want to do in a very short run rate here?
Yeah, I think, and my professional background prior to this was primarily in digital marketing, and so, I mean, marketing generally, marketing and general management generally, but primarily focused on digital, and so one of the sort of thoughts I had coming into this was, like, that it's going to be challenging to just find structural demand for print work. I was like, who prints anything anymore? I would say that I have not found that to be the case. I mean, obviously, I'm extremely mindful of digital transformation and what that's done to the industry and what it will continue to do to the industry. But one of the things that's been surprising to me is that, and a lot of it has to do with my size, as a, when I bought the business, almost 2 million in revenue. This year we'll do about 2.4. at that level, I'm still in such a massive industry. I'm still so small that like the runway to grow before I need to start worrying about industry and macro tailwinds is long. Like I've got a long way to go
You,
before I have to worry about that.
yeah, yeah, 10x, and you're not even a blip, and so it doesn't even matter yet.
Exactly.
You can eat up other stuff that others are fulfilling today, just not well, right?
Yes.
And so,
Exactly. And so and again, I mean it does take time to find those custom. I would say that the harder part is finding the right customer and the right type of work on the sales side. That's been the real challenge because you know we could have an opportunity that comes across our desk for a new piece of business, and it could represent millions of dollars or $1 million. It's like, but realistically, can we handle that level of production, and can we do it at a price that makes sense for the customer? Like, so there's pieces of business that are too large for us, and then there's that no job is too small for us to take on. But obviously, like as we think about, we're primarily almost exclusively B2B. As we look at a particular piece of business, we're typically looking for someone with $50,000 in annual spend or more, and so if we're looking at bringing on a new customer and it's looking like, oh, they really only do, they've got 25 employees, they really only do business cards, and other than that they're really not doing much print. Again, not that that's business that we can't do or that it's too small. It's just like, is the juice worth the squeeze type of thing, and is it gonna be the piece of business that's gonna allow us to continue to grow and scale? So it's hard to find those sort of like right fit customers. That's much harder, I found, than just whether or not there's a need out there. There's clearly a need. Now, I got to keep my eye on what's changing about that need at a macro level to be able to go be hunting in the right places. But at the same time, it's been less of an issue on that front, and so that's been exciting and encouraging. But getting like super clear about who our ideal customer is and really dialing that in has been an ongoing sort of exercise that I feel like has been very very helpful. But the biggest thing I would say that is has the potential to limit growth, and I realize this, and it still continues to be the big thing, is me. Like it's um I realize this again, another lesson I learned, like kind of coming into the business. I was excited because the previous owner had built it to a certain level. We generate leads from organic SEO content, and then we also have a lot of recurring repeat customers that have been with us in some cases for decades, who reorder frequently. And outside of that, he really wasn't doing much outbound selling. And to me, that was like a huge opportunity. I was like, oh, like I can definitely do that. And so I spent a lot of time in the early like post acquisition days, like really just learning the business. And then as far as like new stuff that I was doing, it was really just activity generation on the sales side. But then as I was bringing in new pieces of business, I was managing the account, servicing the account, uh, entering the orders, like doing the relationship management, and very quickly, and like none of my other responsibilities went away, right? So you you and your audience can kind of like see where this is headed, right? So very quickly, I realized, oh my gosh, like this is great. Like I think I can brute force growth to a certain level, but there's obviously a cap here. Like there's
yeah.
just such an obvious like brick wall that I'm going to be running into here. And so I realized, like, wait a minute, like, I'm the bottleneck. Like, I need to get a team, a leadership team, a process, a system, and processes in place that is going to enable scale. And actually, like, one of the things I'm reflecting on the last several months a lot is like the more the less dependent the business is on me, like the better off we're gonna be, because like things just need to, and it's kind of like a hard mental battle too to have,
Yeah.
right? It's like, but I feel like I should be doing stuff like, and believe me, I'm still involved in a lot more day to day stuff than than I would like to be. But as long as I'm involved in anything day to day, like it's inherently capped, um, because there's only one of me, and if I'm wrestling control of every decision, then decisions can't get made very quickly because they all have to come through me. So that is, I would say, the thing that I really am just kind of constantly working on. And so we are working with a coach who's helping us implement an operating system. We started that early this year, I guess in the spring, and that's been hugely helpful. So I've stood up a leadership team. When I took the business over, it was the org chart was everyone reporting to
Report
me.
it to the owner. Yeah.
Yeah. um, and now I have a leadership team of three who have direct reports um, under them, and then I have one other person who does report directly into me, a part timer. But anyway, that has already like streamlined a lot of just the day-to-day stuff that comes up when you're a manager, right? Like people have questions and all that kind of stuff. So really the challenge is like empowering the people that report to me to really unlock a lot of the sort of growth and scale that needs to happen, and then I need to focus my time and energy on the things that I can hopefully add to the business, which is leveraging my relationships and skills, sales and marketing, to build like long term potential partnerships, like looking at potential acquisition opportunities, and like if there's something that works in that realm, like so spending the time doing those things, that is only enabled by having a leadership team with the tools and resources and capabilities to unlock sort of everything else. And that's, I would say, the biggest thing that I'm kind of the big thing I'm working on, that I'm thinking about, that would really allow us to step change to where we need to be. And we're kind of on that path, but I certainly have a lot of work to do in that area too.
All right. So let me rephrase a little bit. You've gotten a bump, a good little bump. I mean, maybe a few $100,000 in growth, and freeing your mind up as you've added leadership, where actually you've added management in that have begun to run the business. And you're saying, hey, but I need to free up more, where they're making more of the decisions. They're growing it. They're not just managing it. So that I can move on to my next layer. Because like right now, you're sort of stuck in doing, I'm going to say, $1,000 an hour work, leading all of them, doing whatever. But you see $5,000 and $10,000 an hour work that you should be working on, that could really pay off for some great growth and profitability, uh, as you get to continue to build the business instead of run the business. Right? That's the shift you're trying to make there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that, as and again, coming from a really large organization and kind of like seeing how the leadership team, and even me at an individual contributor level, but in a strategic sort of department, like spends time. It's like the more we grow and scale, like the more of my time I need to be spending like in the future,
Great.
as opposed
Yes.
to like,
As opposed
where's that
to
order at? It
following.
needs
Yep.
to get to customer XYZ today. In small business land, I don't know if I'll ever get perfectly to a world where I'm completely removed from the day to day. And
Oh,
frankly,
I,
there's some
I,
stuff that's exciting about that too that I really enjoy. So,
I,
but
I, I want
uh,
you to know that you can, and
okay,
and it's not very far in the future if you take the right steps.
yeah,
So, and just think, what's that mean? It's not that some of the things you're doing today aren't exciting. It's that the things you could be doing in the future are so much more exciting and have so
that's
much more
yeah,
return. And so let's let other people do those exciting things that you're doing today,
yeah,
right? So yes, you can. I've seen businesses as small as 3 to 5 million be able to, and the owner be able to step away from the day-to-day running of the business and their teams adding new customers, adding new features, growing things, and they're off there building new relationships, right? Strategic partnerships or starting new businesses depending on what they most love and want to do. And they have shifted to where their main role is to lead leaders
hmm
instead of to lead the business at all. They're
yeah,
leading
and
leaders.
that's the dream for me, really, and one of the reasons I got into, got out of climbing
Corporate
the corporate
and what you're
ladder
doing.
to
Yeah.
wanting to run my own business is to get to that level of
So
freedom.
so so
So
let's
yeah,
dive in just a little bit. I mean, this
yeah,
freedom means a lot. This freedom means doubling your business and tripling your profits in the next 3 years. This freedom means being able to tackle new challenges. Your frustrations, challenges, stresses are always going to be there, but we want them to be there with bigger stuff, the new challenge, the new opportunities. We don't get a free, easy life. Instead, we can grow though to a very purposeful life where the challenges are like, I want to solve this issue that no one else has tackled,
hmm
right? At least not in my area.
hmm
We want to go and have impact. We want to create some change. That's fun. Uh, Once we put aside and mastered the, hey, I know how to make money. Now what do I do? Right? Where do I go next? What's something bigger? Uh, so so yeah, let's keep dreaming. Now you've made some steps. You've figured out some management systems and processes. You brought in a coach that's helping you with some operating systems. Because you use that term, this is probably like an EOS or something like that.
yeah. It's actually Pinnacle, which you and your audience
Pinnacle.
will be familiar with. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very similar to EOS, though.
Great. Yeah, they come in, they do their leadership thing. It's actually heavier in a management mindset than it is in a leadership mindset, right? And very good structural
Yeah,
pieces. Terrific. Let's talk about where what is missing from an EOS, from a Pinnacle, from a scaling up, and a lot of the work that's done out there. Uh, and that is, instead of building great managers and systems and processes, which I need that. That needs to be done. But I need to develop leaders. I need people who are thinking strategically. I need people who are tapping into the minds and hearts of the team, not just telling them what they need to do and when, but that the team wants to follow them. They're all in, right? They want to sacrifice to go and build. So you get that discretionary effort from every single team member.
yeah. That's so. I'm going to stop you there, just because you hit on something and you articulated in a way that I've been trying to find the words for, but you just like really nailed it, which is that that need for the leadership team to think strategically about the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that I've, again, like you said, I've got some pieces in place and things are moving in the right direction, but I feel like I'm still, yeah, taking the I'm monopolizing the strategic thinking work,
That's right.
if you will.
That's right.
And so it's like, how do I get people to see the big picture as like with as much clarity and as much um, consistency as I do? Like that's kind of the lens I'm always right using to make decisions. Hopefully, if I'm doing it well. Um, as opposed to them being really very much like tacticians of
Responding
organizing.
to the direction you point, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
and this is a difference between great management systems and great leadership systems. Great
Hmm.
management systems help to ensure everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Hmm.
That's a top down command and control type of organizing of your business. And I'm not saying those pieces aren't necessary inside, but they have the effect of holding people down. And so, what people do, first of all, the human race will not be held down. And so, it will break out in other ways to express that freedom, to express that I want to think, I want to do, I want to pursue my passion. And it often shows up like Friday afternoon, they get excited. All of a sudden, the energy you wanted all week shows up Friday afternoon as they're heading home to go and do what they care about. Or it shows up as they spin off and start up a competitive business against yours. Or as it right, wherever they can finally unleash that desire to build and do. Um, or they just are stifled and stuck because they never see and they never do think strategically. And so they just don't move you forward. And the reason they don't is they don't even know how to. They've been told no so many times, or just focus on your thing. Thanks for your idea, but go. I need you to just take care of your job. That they have stopped using their creativity, their agency to build. And there are ways of freeing it up. So let's kind of imagine a little bit. But uh, what if you could, one, free up all that creative energy, discretionary effort, and ability, could really free it up to where they wanted to use it, and two, could train them how to use it effectively and align those efforts so it all pulled the same direction. So if you could pull those two things up, free up the energy and align it and hone it, right? Like build the capability. If you could do that, what would it do for your business if every one of your team members began to act in those ways?
I mean, that would that would I mean, I think, and I tell the team this in our monthly staff meeting. I've mentioned this several times. I mean, I think that would be the unlock of the way I phrased it is, this is a 9-figure business that is currently a 7-figure business, but it's 9-figure quality. Um, and so I think that what you just described would get us to, um, on the path to a
Yeah.
the 9-figure business that I believe we're capable of.
So let's say a measly first step it would be to take you to 10 or 20 million.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I definitely don't think
right?
that's
And then we've got some new things we've got to keep building and doing to move beyond that. But that is that key. This is this shift. It's a shift from having helpers to having real business leaders. And these
mhm.
leaders may not have a leader role. They're just leading from their role. So when the customer calls, they're seeing possibilities aligned with the great things you can do, right? When they're thinking of even collections, think of your accounting group. They're thinking of how could I do this in a smarter, wiser way that both gets us the money and builds a relationship that people think, wow, I love working with them, and they want to pay us first. They're all thinking. They're all thinking.
Mhm.
Everybody begins to think strategically, not just about got to do my job, but how does what I do affect those that I'm touching, and what's affecting them so I can do my job better. This is strategic thinking. When you're thinking, what is impacting those that I touch, and how do I help serve them the best I can? And what are all the things I say no to? So I say powerfully a yes to the most important work. That's strategic thinking, right? These are things, and you said it earlier, and so I want you to just kind of sit in that a little more is, okay, I've got a good management system. Pinnacle's helping me think how to manage my team well. And they've got a lot of people around that can come in and plug in at different times. And they can even coach my managers. But what am I doing to raise up leaders? How do I include them in my strategic thinking process? Which isn't just what's the right answer. More importantly, what's the right question? And before that, what's affecting everything that we should be questioning about, right? Like we have to go back to what's going on in the outside, and does my team see it? You've felt it inside of a business, a corporate America before. It's insular. You don't feel the impact. You don't see what's really going on. You're kind of protected in so many ways. Well, how do I remove some of the protection for my team, at least their eyes, so they can see and feel it? And then how do I help them begin to think about these strategic questions? And so there are ways you can do it in your current meeting rhythms that you're doing today, that you can engage your team to think strategically with you. When they begin to do that, and it may take time, remember we said free them up. That's great. The last thing we want are a bunch of free radicals pulling all sorts of directions, tearing our business apart. So let's train them up and then free them up as we're training them up. The more they learn and understand, the more that they're seeing, the more we free them up to make the choices. I was working with another business owner. He had purchased his business just 2 years earlier and was running it, and it was going downhill pretty fast. It was struggling because the team wasn't getting all behind him. That was part of it, but there were other issues too. What was interesting was as he began to free the team up, some of the team members, and it's like he had two main leaders. One of those leaders is like, well, I can't fire this person because, the owner said he's working with him. The owner was reaching down in and kind of micromanaging and trying to lead everything still, right? Um, well, once that leader started to see the bigger picture, there were a few people he's like, oh, these team members, blah, 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 blah. When once he was seeing it and he started to make his ideas, his recommendations a little more clear of what he would want to do, he was able to get rid of one of them. And two of the others he was able to save and redirect, right? And help them actually really contribute to the business because he started to see clearer. It wasn't just a worker that was stuck under him. He had a job to actually build his team. And he started to see that. Oh, my job isn't just to manage. My job is to actually grow, develop, make them great, right? And they don't often think of that. They think, I've got to make sure this print job gets out on time. And that's the number one responsibility. And it's not. That's the team's number one responsibility. The leader's number one responsibility is to set the vision, then build the team, and finally deliver results. There's a different order for a leader.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
manager just thinks of what? Deliver results, get those results, hit those numbers. That's what we focus on. And because of that, they limit the potential of the team because they don't understand what it means to lead. Because they think leading is running the operating system they were handed, and it's not. That's a piece of it. It's only a piece of it. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully these were a couple. I mean, we don't have forever on these podcasts, but
Yeah.
again, let's,
Yeah.
let's start thinking. We've got to build leaders now. Let's
Yeah.
include them on Connor's strategic thinking stuff, right? Let's bring them in on that. Begin to develop them, then begin to add the freedoms in as they begin to develop and learn these. And we'll start to align them to where they say, I see what it means to lead. And Connor knows how to lead a leader now and build them. And you'll start to see those results. We've seen hundreds of businesses take that leap from the 7-figure to the 8-figure range by getting people and processes right, which you're working on. And then this leadership side to ensure that this is all aligned. Those are two key points of shifting, inflection points for the growth of your business. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's really helpful, and just to hit on kind of like one reflection I had while you were talking is one of the other shifts I've noticed, and I think one of the things that's made me so motivated as an entrepreneur, I'm talking earlier about, kind of making that transition and what I've learned is like I I view everything I do through this lens of like anytime I'm thinking about like, oh, maybe I'll push that off till later, or that seems like I don't want to have that difficult conversation. A lot of times it's about needing to have a difficult conversation.
yeah,
And then I'm able to like catch myself and quickly identify like, okay, if I am unwilling to have that difficult conversation, or if I decide that like I can do that, but like I'm only cheating the business and I'm only cheating myself at the end of the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
And so again, for me, it took like becoming a full-time entrepreneur with personally guaranteed debt to make that shift of like, okay, this is like that important. This is like financial life or death for the business, like ultimately, right? It's, so anyway, it's like, how do I get everyone to think that
That's
way?
right. How do we help the team to see and understand? And there are ways. And it's a new job that Connor has, you have to take care of, is to
What
say,
are
I
like
can do it.
some, so obviously without you being super familiar with like what I do day to day, although I'm sure you're probably more familiar than I I maybe think.
I
Um,
I have actually worked with printing businesses.
okay, yeah. What are like some tactical things that, like, again, to your point, that I could do to start to unlock some of that strategic thinking? Is it as
Yeah,
simple as, hey, I'm gonna like update the rolling cash flow forecast, and like I want you guys to sit in on that, and I'm gonna talk you through like how I'm thinking. I want you to poke holes in my thinking and ask questions.
I think that's a wonderful thing to do, is to slowly educate them about the finances of the business. The more transparency, the better. Now, I'll give you a warning on this. Your press operator, if you have a press or however you do, your print operator in
Yeah.
there, uh, to share with them your total cash coming in and going out, or the total revenues up there, um, may be disassociated with what he or she does today. And so it may be helpful instead to grow them into the place where you're actually talking about that total numbers and everything. So you decide, but get very clear first with the metrics that matter that they can control today. Because I don't want to give my team anxiety or envy. Okay. What I
Mhm.
want to give to them are tools to act. So when they can see these are things you directly affect by your work and why it matters so much that these metrics are hit. Now, if we can do this better, it means more job security. It means happier customers, less complaints hitting you. It means whatever. Let's start with the numbers they directly impact. When in circle of influence wise, once they learn to master that, broaden it, give them more, because actually they affect more and they should see how it affects more, and then
Mhm.
broaden it again and broaden it again. Now, what you're talking about isn't strategic yet. You're teaching them how to think just in the managing and running of the business. Excellent. You should. There's also a strategic side, which is okay, how are we going to win in the market? Here's some of the shifts going on. Here's what's happening socially, demographic, economic, political, whatever, all this sort of stuff. They should be part of those discussions also. That's a
Yeah.
different discussion. You're
Mhm.
thinking about the shifts and changes and trends. Are they? If they were understanding the changes and trends and different tools and how they're used out there and different ways of doing offset printing, whatever else, if people are thinking differently about it, faster, smarter, whatever, they too might begin to say, hey, we could shift the way we're doing this. Have you seen this
Mhm.
program? In fact, if I could do that, my operational numbers, I could get them done in a third of the cost. You're like,
Mhm.
what? Let's talk. Right.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
so, so there's two different kinds of discussions. And yes, beginning to add that. I wouldn't suggest start with everything the big. I would first start with what do they have control over? Because I don't want to create anxiety or envy. I want them to have true knowledge and understanding. So when they get to this point, they're like, oh, I see how the business runs. I
Mhm.
get it
Mhm.
because I understand it from beginning all the way up through. So step at a time, yes, but you really could get them to those bigger numbers in 6 months. Just start them now where they're at. Start growing it, start building it. You're building people who could become your competitors. And so we're running out of time on our call. But you may want to listen to some of the other calls, other things we've done, or talk
Yes.
with our group later to say, how do I align their minds and hearts with the team so I don't turn them into competitors, but instead I turn them into raving fans inside the
Mhm.
business, and that they're
Mhm.
delighted to together go and win. And
Mhm.
that's a piece of the leadership. That's the vision that I mentioned as number one job. We didn't really talk about it in this call, but
Yes.
thank you so much. This was fun. This was great. We're out of time for today. But
Yeah.
Connor, For people across the US who want great printing solutions, entire, complete fulfillment, shipped out, all the things done for them, how would they contact you or use your
Yeah,
services?
yeah, sure. Yeah. So our website is theprintauthority.com. There's a quote submission that people can use on that website. You can also email us. My email is connor at theprintauthority.com, or you can email customer service at theprintauthority.com, and we'd be happy to help. Also, you can call us. So, uh, our number's on the website, but it's 615-468-2679.
Great, Connor. Thanks again for being on the call with us today and sharing some of your journey. New, jumped right in, bought a business at the size, and are learning and growing and being a part of it. But great insights. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And this was fun. And love thinking about this stuff, as you can probably tell. So appreciate you having me, and appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about me and our business, and learn a lot as well.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. For our listeners, if there's something you found of value, please like or share, get to other seven figure business owners so they too can benefit from the things we talked about today. Until next time, keep learning, keep striving, keep growing, and keep caring.